In the heart of the American city of Westfield, a pervasive fog rolled in one October night, thick and unnatural. The citizens awoke to find their once vibrant city cloaked in an eerie, white shroud that swallowed sound and light, leaving only an oppressive silence. The fog seemed to seep into every corner, and with it came a palpable sense of dread. By midday, the fog had not lifted, and whispers of unease spread through the empty streets. Schools and businesses were closed, as if a collective instinct warned of an imminent threat. The fog seemed to pulse with a life of its own, curling around street lamps and seeping through the gaps in doors and windows. In the midst of this unsettling calm, Mia Turner, a journalist, ventured out with her camera to investigate. Her curiosity was piqued by a series of reports about people going missing in the city over the past week. As she walked down Main Street, the mist thickened, and the usual city sounds, car engines, conversations, laughter, were replaced by an unnatural, almost mournful quiet. The city seemed abandoned. Storefronts were empty, and the few people she encountered moved with an eerie, mechanical precision, their faces blank and their eyes hollow. Mia's unease grew as she noticed that these individuals did not seem to react to her presence. It was as though they were trapped in a trance. The fog grew heavier and began to swirl in unnatural patterns. Mia's camera, once a trusted companion, malfunctioned, its lens darkening as if refusing to capture the horror around her. She pressed on, her footsteps echoing loudly in the ghostly stillness. Her investigation led her to an old, forgotten part of the city, the old district that had been left to decay. The fog here seemed even denser, and the buildings loomed like twisted specters of the past. She approached a decrepit church, its Gothic spires piercing the fog like skeletal fingers. Inside, the air was colder, and the silence was absolute. The flickering candlelight revealed dusty pews and an altar covered in a thick layer of cobwebs. As Mia stepped further inside, she noticed a figure kneeling at the altar, a man, his back to her, muttering incoherently. His voice was barely audible, lost in the fog's suffocating embrace. Suddenly, the man turned, and Mia gasped. His eyes were sunken, and his face was an ashen mask of despair. He stared at her with a gaze that seemed to pierce her very soul. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Instead, the fog began to swirl violently, coalescing into a dark, roiling mass above them. The fog twisted and converged, and with it came a cacophony of whispers, disembodied voices pleading and crying. The fog seemed to pulse with an ominous rhythm, growing thicker and more oppressive. Mia could barely see as the fog closed in around her, and she felt an overwhelming force pulling her towards the center of the swirling darkness. As the fog enveloped her completely, her screams were swallowed by the thick mist. The city of Westfield had become a trap, its residents claimed by an ancient evil that used the fog as a conduit to drag them into its eternal embrace. The next morning, the fog had vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared, leaving behind an empty city and the chilling echo of Mia's last, desperate cry. Westfield was never the same. The abandoned streets became a ghostly reminder of the night the fog came, and the missing were never found. Those who dared to speak of it were met with silence, and the city's dark secret lay hidden beneath its fog-shrouded past.